Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Let's talk about the tools and techniques to address the performance problems in Oracle. So before I start, my name is Biju Thomas. I'm an Oracle ACE director, and I work for OneNeck IT Solutions. I'm a principal solution architect with OneNeck IT Solutions. Been working with Oracle database for a very long time. I published several OCA and OCP books. As you can see on the screen, 8A book, and the latest one is a 12C administrator of the OCA certification. The 8A book came in 2000, so I've been doing this for several years now. I blog at bijus.com. Since '97, that blog is up and running. I participate in I share content on Facebook, Twitter, Google. We'll give the handles towards the end. And if you have any questions during the session, feel free to enter the questions as and when you have the questions in the chat window. I will review them towards the end and then try to answer them. Okay. Again, a quick slide on OneNeck IT Solutions. OneNeck is a hybrid IT solutions provider, mainly focused on the mid-market companies. OneNeck is headquartered in Scottsdale, Arizona, in the US, and we have 8 data centers. We are ERP managed outsourcer, focusing on Microsoft AX, Dynamics AX, Oracle Business Suite, and SAP. And we have our own private cloud infrastructure called Relay Cloud. And we also support Oracle, Azure, AWS, Hyperscale Cloud also. We also offer a variety of hardware, managed services, consulting, advisory services. So you can visit oneneck.com to know more about this. And if you have any questions, just send me an email or a tweet, and I can answer that. Anything about OneNeck. So, troubleshooting. Troubleshooting is usually, or typically, or we can say always, a reactive performance management. That's what you have an issue. Now you are troubleshooting. So that is not really proactive. It is a reactive. When you have a problem, you are reacting to the problem. So the usual steps that happens is the user has a problem. The user opens a ticket that there is a performance problem somewhere. Then you as a DBA check the database, make sure things are okay. You don't see a database-wide problem or whatever that is. Maybe a lock in the database. You can check the database. Then you need to figure out whether this problem is a single user problem or single program problem, or it's a single location problem, or it's a location-wide or database-wide issue. Then the next thought is like, what changed? What did we make any change to the database? Did we do any code promotion that could have caused this? So you need to collect information. Then the next thought is, how do we reproduce this issue? Is the issue happening right now, or the issue is gone? How do we reproduce that issue? Or can we reproduce the issue at will? Then whatever the information we collected so far, we need to review that. Then we need to find the remedy for the solution. Then we have to also go through the root cause and how this caused, how the issue caused, and how to prevent that issue. Or if you cannot prevent it, how do we at least know about the issue before the user opens the ticket, so that we can take some proactive actions. So not all issues can be prevented. Sometimes the issues will happen, but at least you should know before the user opens a ticket. So that is ideal situation. You don't want the user to be the first one to know about a database or performance problem. You want the DBA or the application admin to know the issue before the user opens a ticket. So we think about creating some alert to know the issue beforehand. So there are mainly 3 areas or 3 reasons why a SQL could be performing slow or a performance problem. Most likely, if it is the system has been running fine for several days or months or weeks, and you suddenly have a performance problem, 90% of the time you can say that, oh, that's an optimizer. That's the optimizer is the problem, because optimizer is messing up both to the plan, or it has got an inefficient plan. The other reason is like application. I mean, there is a code migration, or there is an application coding issue, or a literal usage. I mean, that could be an application issue, or resource issue. I mean, that is rare, but I mean, you could also hit a resource issue. I mean, you are running out of the CPU memory or I/O contention, or you have locks in the database. I mean, your coding or the application coding is not appropriate, and it is locking users. So that the optimizer, application, and resource are the main reasons why SQL could be performing slow. And I have put here two books, one from Jonathan Lewis and one from Christian. These two books, I mean, if you are really serious about performance tuning the database, I think these two Bible, you should be reading these two. These are a must read for you. I mean, if you are doing anything with Oracle performance, I think these two books are a must read. It's that. And okay. Then, so we talked about where the problem will be causing. Then there are, especially in Oracle, I mean, we have a lot of diagnostic tools available. I mean, if you're a seasoned DBA, you have a lot of scripts available in your magic toolbox. So you could be running some of that scripts to figure out what the problem is. If you have Enterprise Manager, Oracle Enterprise Manager, Cloud Control, or Database Express, I mean, you could use that. I mean, there are a lot of options to figure out the performance issues using Enterprise Manager, and that is a preferred tool for troubleshooting performance issues. Is Enterprise Manager. Then you could also use SQL Developer. I mean, SQL Developer has a lot of enhancements in the recent versions. I mean, 4.2 or 18.1. I mean, it has a lot of improvements especially on the DBA side, to figure out performance problems and AWR and stuff like that. So you could be using SQL Developer, and you could use any third-party product like SolarWinds or any other third-party product. I mean, you could use that. Then if you're using Enterprise Edition, and if you're licensed for Diagnostic and Tuning Pack, then that opens up a wide range of troubleshooting options. I mean, you have the AWR, the ASH, the ADDM, the real-time SQL and real-time database monitoring, SQL Tuning Advisor, Performance Hub. So a lot of options are available when you have the Diagnostic and Tuning Pack available. So which tool to use when you have a performance problem? I mean, that is another confusion people have. I mean, what is my best tool? I mean, should I run AWR report? I mean, is it going to show me where the problem is, or should I run ADDM, or should I run ASH? So what is my tool? So we'll review some of that in this session. So which tool to use? I mean, whether you could go with a hammer or a Swiss knife, so whatever that is. So when somebody opens a performance issue, a performance problem ticket, the best thing or the easiest thing for a DBA or even any admin level. I mean, I'm using the word admin instead of developer, because I mean, when you have a performance problem, you should be, if you have access to the Oracle OEM Performance Home, you may be an admin or a DBA. So you could quickly look at the OEM Performance Home screen, and if you see the screen like the one on the top, let me enable my laser pointer. If you see the one on the top, I mean, then you'll know that the database pretty much looks okay. I mean, I don't see any obvious problems in the database. I mean, there will be some other problems, but we don't see any obvious problem in the database. So it is not a database-wide problem. Whereas if you see something like the second screen, I mean, you see that there are a lot of sessions waiting on I/O, which is blue, and there is some networking or queuing or cluster-wide problems going on. Those are represented in gray area. So you can see that there may be a problem in the database. We don't know if that's a problem, but it does look like there may be a problem in the database. So even before you contact the user, I mean, you could be looking at some of those gray gray sessions. What are they waiting on? I mean, is there a contention going on? And not only the performance home, if you look at the OEM top activity, and if you see a screen similar to the one on the top, I mean, like, then you can say that the things are looking pretty normal. But if you see a screen like the one below, there you know that, I mean, you can see that the concurrency is a problem, where a user lock is blocking like 8 sessions, or sorry, 4 sessions from 4 to 8. So about 4 or 5 sessions were blocked by a lock, and that lock has been going on for a long time. And by the time you got the ticket, and by the time you look into the database, looks like the lock is cleared. So if when you call the user at this time, I mean, let's assume that you are not looking at this graph. I mean, when you got the ticket, you call the user, and the user says, the problem is not there, it's gone. I mean, then how do you know what the problem is? I mean, if you're looking here, yeah, you can even tell the user that, yeah, the problem should have been it should be resolved in the last minute or so. Is that right? I mean, yeah, I see a problem in the database, and we'll figure out what's going on. So the performance, the top activity and the performance home in OEM are a good first what do you say, the first look areas where you can get an idea of how the database is. Why I'm saying this, I mean, for most of you, this may not be this may be a no-brainer because you all use OEM, but I talk to DBAs, and there are so many DBAs out there, I mean, who don't use OEM because they don't have many production databases. I mean, they have one production database, and they think, yeah, I don't really need OEM. I mean, why do I have to spin up another database and the server to have OEM? So they don't use OEM. So this is mainly for those people, those DBAs, I mean, who don't have OEM. I just want to show them how easy it is to identify if there's a problem in the system or not. So if you're not using OEM, I mean, I would definitely recommend start using OEM. It's not just the performance troubleshooting. There are a lot of other nice features in OEM that could help you. And if you are licensed for the database, and if you are database support, I mean, you could use OEM using the infrastructure repository license agreement from Oracle. Then you can also use the SQL Developer. I mean, SQL Developer, I mean, if you don't have OEM, let's assume that you don't have OEM. I mean, and if you could download SQL Developer. SQL Developer has the instance viewer screen that will also give you a good idea of how the sessions are doing and what is the activity going on in the database. If you look at the left-hand side, and you can see the weights on the database, and if you see any red blocks here, I mean, that could mean that there are locks going on, and the blue here is the IO, and the yellow is, I believe, is CPU. So anyway, I mean, this also could give you a good idea of what is going on in the system, and it also shows you like the top SQL, the memory, storage, the allocations. I mean, how much redo is being generated, logical reads, files. I mean, this is a good instance viewer. Is a good screen. But I believe one by default it refreshes every 10 seconds or so. That may be too much. I mean, this could crash your database. So I'd change those preferences. You go to the SQL Developer preferences and change the refresh interval to like 5 minutes or so to be on the better side. I mean, otherwise SQL Developer may be causing a performance problem. Just information there. So you could use the instance viewer in SQL Developer. Again, going back to the performance issue, if your database is in production and it's been functioning for a long time, then most of the time, if somebody opens a performance problem, it most likely, or 95% of the time, it may not be a database-wide problem. It may be a single session problem, or a single program problem, or a single user problem. Maybe it's a user error, or a single SQL that is causing the problem. So if it is a database-wide issue, I mean, where would you look at? I mean, you would see resource. Most of the time, the database-wide issue would be a resource contention. I mean, it's a disk problem, or a CPU problem, or a memory problem where you don't have enough resources. for those, I mean, again, you can use the Oracle tools, OEM or OS Watcher. I mean, OS Watcher should be running on all your production servers, so you can take a look at the OS Watcher. I mean, that captures the CPU, disk, and memory statistics periodically, and you can look at that. I mean, that's a very nice tool, and highly recommended to have it running on every production server, database server. OraTop will give you information similar to the Unix or Linux top utility. I mean, OraTop will give you the Oracle session information in the same style. ADDM or AWR and Performance Sub. I mean, those are some of the tools you can use to troubleshoot or figure out. I mean, if it is a database-wide issue. I mean, if almost all the users are having the problem. I mean, nobody could get into the database, things like that. I mean, you could use any of these tools to get in there. But if it is a single program or single session or only a set of people having problem, then again you could use OEM there as well, or you could use SQL monitoring, ADDM, AWR. The best method there is, I mean, you trace the session. I mean, you try to trace the session and see what is going on. And the solution most of the time would be like either it's a coding problem, I mean, you need to fix the SQL, or you are missing statistics, or you don't have current statistics. I mean, so you need to collect statistics. I mean, sometimes even if the statistics is there, I mean, the data skewing and things like that could cause performance issues. Then you may have to create a SQL profile or a SQL plan baseline, which will show you there. Or it could be a bug. I mean, you are hitting a bug, and then you need to open SR with Oracle, and then you need to get a fix. So that is the path for a single program or single session troubleshooting. Again, these are some of the questions you should be asking. If it is not a even if it is a database-wide problem, you'll be asking questions like, I mean, did we change any database parameter recently? Did the database restart the last day, which we changed some parameter in the SP file and never bothered to bounce the database at that time. I mean, so yesterday we had a different maintenance, and we just bounced the database. I mean, so that parameter took effect, and now we have a performance problem. So the problem start time and when the database restarted, I mean, that could give you a clue on where to look for the problem. If it is a database, I mean, if it is a database-wide problem. But if it is a single user problem, then database-wide problem are most of the time they are easy to troubleshoot and easy to fix. I mean, most of the time it will be a parameter or a disk CPU contention or something like that. I mean, those are most of the time easy to troubleshoot and then fix. I mean, you have to bounce the database. I mean, sometimes the fix is to bounce the database after changing some parameter or something. But those are easy to identify. I mean, where the problem is coming from. I mean, if you use these tools like OEM or OS Watcher, OraTop, and ADDM, AWR, I mean, you should see the trend, and you will be able to troubleshoot and identify where the problem is. And maybe open an SR with Oracle and then provide a system dump, and they should be able to figure out pretty easily, I mean, where the problem is coming. But if it is a single program or a SQL causing the issue, those usually take several hours or days to fix, because it may be a coding issue. I mean, and as a DBA, you may not understand the code. I mean, what is the code? Or if the code is coming from third-party vendor, you may have to contact the vendor and have them change the code. Or it may be caused by a statistics, or it may be caused by a new index somebody created unrelated to this code. So you need to trace the session, you need to identify the SQL, you need to look at all the variables. I mean, those are changed in the past day or so. And all of that you need to consider. So the single user program, I mean, single program or single user issues are time consuming troubleshooting. So I mean, there is no estimate on how long it's going to take. It all depends on some luck and the DBA knowledge and the tools you have. I mean, if you don't have the right tools, I mean, you may not see the problem. I mean, whatever tool. So we have knowledge of whatever the tool shows us, right? I mean, if you don't have the right tool, if you're not using the right tool, or if you're not using the right SQL, you may not see the problem. So you'll say, I don't see any problem with the database. I mean, something else. So then the finger pointing starts. I mean, it's application, it's a database, it's a network. So those kind of finger pointing start happening. So having the right tool is also important, right? So okay. So let's look at some of the tools. Performance Hub, I believe this is available from 11GR2. This is something really nice. I mean, basically, Performance Hub shows the performance of the database as if you are looking into the live database using OEM. So the interface is similar to OEM. Whatever the report is, the report interface is similar to OEM. You can click. I mean, it's an active report where you can click and drill down and all of that stuff you can do. And it shows you a single view for ADDM, SQL tuning, real-time monitoring, ASH. All of that information is there. It can provide you real-time or historical. I mean, this historical part is where it is very, very beneficial to look at the historical. So somebody opened a ticket and said that, I mean, there's a performance problem. You call the user, that problem is not there right now. So when was the problem happening? It happened just 15 minutes back. So how do you go back and look at it? I mean, you can, or 1 hour back. And 1 hour back, I mean, if you go in OEM, you're not going to get that granularity in OEM when you go beyond 1 hour. So if you provide Perf Hub the time frame, then that will give you more information. So these are sections in the Perf Hub report. I mean, you have a summary section, an activity, the workload, the rack information, what are the monitor, SQL, ADDM, the ADDM findings. I mean, during that time frame, what are if there are any ADDM findings, the database time, how the database time was spent, the resources and system statistics. So there are three types of reports. I mean, 3 options for the report: basic, typical, and all. Typical is the default, and I always recommend you use the typical, and that gives you enough information. All is not required. So this is an example of the Perf Hub report. So the SQL is available under RDBMS admin. Oracle Home RDBMS admin. The report name is PRFHUB-RPT, similar to the AWR RPT, things like that. So once you run it, I mean, it shows you what the basic, typical, and all. So you provide by default, typical is the default. Then you provide the DB ID and the database ID and the instance number. So you provide that. Then you provide the start time and the end time of the report. This is interesting. I mean, when you provide the start time, you can provide either an absolute time, like the date and the time, or you can just specify the date without the year and the time, or you can just specify the time, which means today's date, and you can omit the seconds from the time. So you can specify a time like that. That's an absolute time, or you can specify a relative time. I mean, so you say like -1:15. That means 1 hour 15 minutes. Sysdate minus 1 hour 15 minutes. -25 means sysdate minus 25 minutes. So you specify a start time using an absolute time or a relative time. So you provide an end time similar to that format, and you specify a report name, and that's pretty much it. I mean, if you don't provide a report name, it has a default name in there, so you can use that. And start time and end time, another example. So this is the report you will get. I mean, you can see that this is a similar report as the Enterprise Manager. It even has the Enterprise Manager. So if you are looking for a last 15 minutes or something like that, I mean, this is completely offline. I mean, but you feel like you are connected to the database, and then you are getting a live report. So it's a HTML file. I mean, single HTML file. You can click through it, and I mean, it's very nice. I mean, you can see the active sessions during that time frame which you generated this report, the load profile, the active sessions, the host CPU, I mean, how the CPU was doing, the IO request, the memory. So you get a good idea of how the sessions were. I mean, what are the active sessions, what is happening in the database. So it gives you a good overview of the database 15 minutes back. or 30 minutes back for the 15 minutes, for example. So you could get that. So here is another view. I mean, I click on the workload tab. I mean, it shows you the redo size or user calls, the parts calls, and the top SQL. I mean, what are the top SQLs running? And so you click on the top SQL. I mean, that may be the problem SQL causing slowness in the system. So you could I mean, right away you can find out, I mean, what is happening or what was happening during that time, and then you can then run SQL tuning advisor or something on that SQL to figure out, I mean, what is going on. But you see the perf hub report shows you good information, and you click on the SQL ID. I mean, you click on any SQL ID, it gives you the SQL name and the execution start time, how much CPU it used, and the storage, and IO requests, PGA, temp usage, wait statistics, IO statistics, all of that information. This is all offline. So it gives you the plan, the SQL plan, the plan activities, the plan statistics. I mean, everything is there in this offline report. Very, very nice and very useful information to troubleshoot performance problems. And there is this frequently asked questions there. That the URL is missing. Okay, so it's I don't know what happened to the URL. They said there supposed to be an URL here. But if you search Google for Performance Hub FAQ, you should get this page. But there is a page available on Oracle TechNet on Performance Hub thing. This space is supposed to be showing an URL. I don't know what happened there. Okay, sorry about that. All right. AWR. I mean, almost everybody should be familiar with AWR because it's been available since 10G. I'm not going to talk about AWR, but I just want to mention a few points about AWR. The first thing is the statistics level. Typical, I mean, don't mess with it. I mean, I have known DBAs or I have seen systems where they change the statistics level to all because they wanted to get all the information without knowing, I mean, what it is. I mean, they changed it to all and then having performance problem because of that on the database level. So just leave it at typical. I mean, don't mess with it. That is good. Typical is good. Retention by default it is 8 days. If it is a production database, it is very inadequate to have 8 days of retention. Need to be at least 30 or 60 days for production. I mean, that's what gives you good history. I mean, if you are going to troubleshoot some problem, I mean, when the problem started or how the SQL was behaving a month back. I mean, if you want to look at that, I mean, you need to have some history. At least 30 days history is good. The snapshot frequency by default it is 60. Just leave it at 60. That is okay. No need to change that. AWR report, you can use OEM SQL Developer or you can use SQL Plus to generate AWR reports. Types of AWR data. I mean, you could run the AWR report on a non-CDB, which is a traditional pre-12c database, or you can run it on the CDB level. Or you could run it on an individual PDB. You can even run it on a standby database, or you can also run the AWR report on track database. Baselines, periodic baselines. I mean, if you have a habit of taking AWR baselines, I mean that's a good thing because you can then if you save the baselines, I mean you can compare a performance issue with the baseline when you have a performance problem. A month back or 6 months back, so you can compare the performance with that. Again, the compare reports is to compare with another snapshot or with baseline. And the most powerful thing about AWR is using the DBA_hist views. So those hist views, I mean, you can write several powerful scripts. I mean, I'll show you a couple of scripts in the screens. Following slides, but you can also search Google and many DBAs or many people who share scripts on the internet. I mean, there are a lot of powerful scripts available, so you can write very powerful and useful SQL statements to get information out of AWR using the SQL statements. So again, I mean, these are this is just the reports, how to generate the AWR reports. I'm not going to talk about it. You can also use SQL Developer to develop the AWR, generate the AWR reports. So you go under the DBA module and you go under performance and under AWR. You can see the AWR report viewer or different report viewer or SQL report viewer. And when you click on AWR, it shows you the snapshot retention, the snapshot interval, and the collection level. So all of that information is there. It's a rack database, so you can see that it's showing information from both instances, 35, 35, 30, 30, typical. So like that. So SQL Developer also can be used for generating the AWR reports. What to look for in AWR? Usually when you are not when you are looking for a database level problem, or when you don't know where the problem is, or if you are simply reviewing the AWR on a periodic basis, then the top-down approach is fine. You look at the report from top to bottom and look for trouble spots. So some of the things you look for. Let me show you here. Okay, so you look for the number of sessions. During the beginning and end. What is the number of sessions, active sessions increasing? Here in this report, it is in fact decreasing from 696 sessions to 500 sessions. And what is the DB time? How busy is the database? It gives you here. And the 12C ADDM also shows you the top SQL statements at the beginning of the report. That's also good information. What are the top SQL statements during that time frame? Then you also look at the log profile. What is the redo activity? How many buffer or logical reads happening? The physical reads and physical writes. Those you need to look at. Hard parsers. How the parsers are happening. The byte variable use. The execute to parse ratio, in-memory sort. Is my sort area adequate? So these are some of the areas you need to be paying attention to, and the foreground wait events and the wait time. If it is waiting on DB CPU, that is fine. It's CPU, that's a good thing. But user I/O, system I/O, those waits you need to look at that. Memory statistics. How much is how big is your SGA plus PGA? Am I causing any swapping in the system? Those things you need to look into. Those things. The swapping, the wait time and things like that. The operating system, the SQL statistics, the I/O statistics, SGA target. Do you have adequate SGA? Here the SGA is 64 gig. So that shows the physical reads is like 23 million. If I increase the SGA to 77 gig or 81 gig, then my physical rates will drop down to 18 million. So SGA target advisory is something to look at. Again, don't make any changes based on one report. Or any memory changes and things like that. You need to be looking at various reports or reports over a period of time. Then only you make changes. You don't look at one report and make the changes. But if you're troubleshooting problem, you'll see what is happening. The logical reads, the physical reads, and what are the top objects. And similarly, ADDM. The good thing with the ADDM is that it not only shows the problem, it also tells you where there is no problem. So that's also the ADDM reports will show that as well. Here the top SQL. You look at the SQL. Again, this may not be the problem SQL, but at least these are all like guidance. It'll show you. This will guide you where to look at. You are not searching in the dark. These are all guidelines for you to look into these areas and improve the performance. This may not be the problem SQL that is giving you a trouble, but this is something you need to look into. So these are all. I take all the reports, all the tools from Oracle, especially as a guideline. Those are not the final solution. The DBA still has to wear the DBA hat and the understanding of the business and the understanding of the application before we make changes. Definitely. So, so I was mentioning the ADDM also shows you where there is not a problem. So it is showing the areas where it didn't find any problem, like the application was not a problem, commit was not a problem, concurrency was not a problem. So it also shows you where there were no problems. So quickly, you can discount these areas and then start looking at somewhere else during that time frame. Real-time ADDM in OEM is another tool where you can look at the information and performance. If you're not using real-time ADDM in OEM, that is something good when you are troubleshooting problems. That captures the last hour information. It shows you there, and the last 5 minutes, the real-time ADDM. It shows you what is happening in the database and the diagnostic monitor. It gives you the findings, and you click on the findings, and that will give you. So real-time ADDM is something, if you haven't used it, check it out. That's something useful when you are troubleshooting problems. So you use the OEM top activity or SQL detail or SQL session. So basically, yeah, you found the session or the SQL causing the problem using the tools like the top activity or perfab or other tools we just showed you. Or you found only the SID. You found the SID of the session causing problem. Then using OEM, you can find the SID and find the SQL that is executed by that session. Or you can use SQL Developer to find the SQL using the session manager. So you can go there, or you can use VDollar or GVDollar views to find the session and the SQL that is running. So or you can use you can also use ASH, active session history to find what all the activities happening in the database for a time duration. Again, I just didn't want to miss out on ASH. ASH also you can generate the ASH report from OEM performance or top activity screen, where you click on the ASH report. That gives you the last 5 minutes ASH report, which is very easy to generate that ASH report from the top activity. So if you see performance problem and you want to see what are the sessions doing, then you click on the ASH activity and then do it. And in the ASH report also, you can filter the ASH report not only by the time, by the SQL ID or SID or a weight class. You can do that as well. The filtering option is available there. And in ASH, when you filter with the SID, it'll show in the ASH. Where is that? Okay, here. So here, you can see that the report target. I'm just filtering for just a particular session ID 4049, and that particular session is causing 16.4% of the total database activity. So I can filter that, and then that will show me information about that session. If I'm troubleshooting one session, I can run the ASH report for that particular session for the time duration, and this ASH report will give me information about that session alone for the duration, which is useful in troubleshooting. And real-time SQL monitoring is available in SQL Developer also. You go into the tuning menu, and under tuning you have real-time SQL monitor. It is the same similar interface like OEM. So it'll sort the sessions by the most database time sessions will be on the top. So you can see which session is causing the or taking most database time, and if you move your mouse over on the session, it will show you the username, the session ID, and where it is coming from. So the username is here, and the module toad, and the service name PRD, program toad.txt. So you get some information here, just by moving the mouse over there. And you can also see the plan statistics and the plan and metrics. All of that information is available in SQL Dev. So if you're a DBA and think that SQL Developer is a developer tool, no, it is a DBA tool. Now it's more and more of a DBA tool than a developer tool. So the SQL Developer team is adding a lot of DBA features into SQL Developer. And this is the same screen using OEM. So if you use real-time SQL monitoring, that will show you the most time-consuming SQL at the top, so that you can identify which SQL is causing problem in the database right away by looking at the real-time SQL monitoring. Once you have the SQL, I mean, there are that is you're halfway through. Then you need to figure out, I mean, what to do with how to tune the SQL. So you click on the SQL. And that gives you the SQL name and the plan and the activity, and then you click on the SQL details. That will take you to the SQL details and the plan and all this kind of activity. And similar to these are all OEM screens. And so if you have OEM, I mean, you see that, I mean, how easy it is to drill down. I mean, if you have OEM, if you use OEM. Tracing, so you so you are, for example, sometimes when you are not able to find which SQL is causing the problem, because the session or the application has multiple SQLs running in a loop, and then they are going in a loop, and then you don't see a single SQL taking more time. It is a set of multiple SQLs happening. So you may want to trace the session to figure out what the SQL is. And you can either use the DBMS monitor session trace enable to enable tracing on a remote session, or you can use SQL Developer or OEM to enable trace on the session. Pretty known thing. And reading trace file, I mean, most of us still use TKProf. So if you are still using TKProf, I mean, I would recommend you take a look at the most node 224.270.1. That is the trace analyzer. So trace analyzer is a tool. I mean, it gives you an HTML output. So you give the 10046 trace as the input, or the trace file name as the input. I mean, that the output will be a bunch of log files. I mean, basically what it did, and it gives you a text file output and HTML output of the trace file, which is a human readable form in a very, very nice format. I mean, it shows you at the top of the report, I mean, what are the time-consuming SQL and sessions and statistics and all kind of information is there from the trace into that report. I mean, very, very cool. And if you enable trace on multiple sessions using the client identifier or anything like that, and you want to analyze, or it is a parallel session and you have like 20 parallel sessions running, and you traced all 20 parallel sessions, and you want to analyze those, I mean, you can put all those trace files in one text file that is called the control file, and you pass that control file name to the trace analyzer, and that will still give you one HTML report and one text file output of analyzing all of those files together. So which is nice. All right, so now we got the SQL detail. I mean, you identified the problem SQL. So if you are using SQL Developer or OEM, I mean, you can click on SQL Advisor, Tuning Advisor, and go from. So you click on SQL Tuning Advisor. The Tuning Advisor basically it's an optimizer feature and provide you information on improvements. I mean, it looks at the statistics, it looks at the access path, the SQL structure, if there are any alternative plans available, and if we can create a SQL profile. So not only from I mean, the SQL you can pass from AWR, ADDM, or the shared SQL area, or from the shared port. Or you can create your own SQL tuning set and pass it to the SQL Tuning Advisor. Then it provides the recommendation. And there is an auto task also available where Oracle will automatically review the SQL and pass them through the Tuning Advisor and then provide recommendations. So that part is also available. But Tuning Advisor, I mean, you can use Tuning Advisor to get a quick tuning recommendations from Oracle. And again, the Tuning Advisor is not the final word. I mean, you know SQL and the application better than Oracle. But if you don't know that, I mean, then you can go with the recommendations of SQL Tuning Advisor. But as I was mentioning earlier, Tuning Advisor is again a guideline. Here's a quick link URL. Kerry Osborne. Kerry has written a lot of SQL scripts, but this one is written from 2008, I mean 10 years back, but it is still valid and it is still good. I mean, I was taking a look at this recently. So he in this blog post, I mean, he's explaining, I mean, how to create a tuning task using create tuning task and then execute the tuning task and then accept the recommendation. I mean, if you do not have OEM or SQL Developer and you don't want to go, you don't want to use SQL OEM or SQL Developer, I mean, you can go to SQL Plus and then run these. So that will create, I mean, you create a SQL tuning set, and that will create a tuning task, and you execute the tuning task, and you get a report, and you implement the recommendation. So basically, you can go through SQL Plus and then do that. I mean, you can take a look at this blog post and understand that more. Kerry also has a lot of scripts. Some of the scripts, I mean, the AWR, using the AWR reports, he has written a lot of scripts. So take a look at kerryosborn.oracle-guide.com. This one, which I'm showing on the right, this is from a real troubleshooting exercise. So this script name is AWR plan change. I mean, he has some good SQLs there. I mean, which I have added to my collection are like the find SQL, dplan.sql, unstable plans.sql, AWR plan change.sql, find SQL stats.sql. I mean, these are some of the SQL available, which are my favorite SQLs, but there are a lot of SQLs he has written and available in his library. So you look at this AWR plan change. I mean, so basically, we were troubleshooting a performance problem, and we figured out that, I mean, one SQL which was running fine the previous day was causing problem on a Monday, I believe, or Monday or Tuesday, and causing problems. So we passed the SQL ID to this script. I mean, AWR plan change. We passed the SQL ID 5ZA to that, and you see that, I mean, on 10th February, it was running with the plan hash value of this number, and on 13th February at at midnight or 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, it changed to a different plan ID. And you look at the average elapsed time before this change, it was taking about 5 seconds. There was an exception here of 15 seconds, but most of the time it was taking 5 seconds or 6 execution time. Suddenly, the execution time jumped to like in 2 digits, I mean 13, 14 seconds. So you see that, I mean, right away you can see that, I mean, there is a plan change, and I mean, that caused performance problem. So then you figure out, I mean, how can I fix this? I mean, one quick fix would be, I mean, you get the you create a SQL profile using this plan hash value, and then implement that SQL profile. That's a good quick fix if you don't want to do anything else. But you can go through the SQL and figure out if the statistics are current or whatever. I mean, that's a troubleshooting part. So yeah, again, directing the optimizer. I mean, there are different ways. I mean, you can influence the optimizer. You can create. You can. I mean, the best way is to collect proper statistics and proper histogram or multi-column statistics. I mean, that is the proper way. Sometimes, I mean, DBA. I mean, you are just starting to be a DBA. I mean, you don't have good information about the data or things like that. Or you're just plain lazy. I mean, you are under pressure. I mean, you just have to get something done real quick. I mean, you can create a SQL profile using that plan I showed you earlier. I mean, you can just get that plan, create a SQL profile, and get it implemented. Or you can create a SQL plan baseline. All of that you can do using OEM. You could do all of that. Then OEM screens, you can do that. So the SQL profile and SQL plan baseline. So which one to use? So this is from Oracle documentation, this picture. So this is, I mean, you consider this is the present time. So you have a good plan or a bad plan, let's say. So if you create a SQL plan baseline, if it is a good plan, and it will keep using that plan and prevents any suboptimal plan in the future. So that is the purpose of SQL plan baseline. So basically, you have a good plan, and you want to keep that plan running until you approve or until Oracle finds a better plan. So you are preventing accidental suboptimal plan in the database. Whereas SQL profile is something is not running good right now, you create a profile, or you have a suboptimal plan in the past. I mean, you want to correct that using a SQL profile and make it better now. So SQL profile is used to fix something, whereas SQL plan baseline is to not to cause any problems. So there is a difference between plan baseline and SQL profile. So which one to use depends on, I mean, if you implemented a solution and you don't want any more problems with that SQL, I mean, you implement a SQL plan baseline on that SQL ID. How am I doing on the time? 7:50. Okay. So SQL plan baseline again. Yeah, I don't want to spend time on this. All right. So SQL plan baselines, plan capture. I mean, you can capture the plans by default. I mean, automatically you can capture using by setting the parameter optimizer capture SQL plan baselines. You can set that parameter that will capture the plan baselines. I am not a fan of this. I wouldn't do this. I mean, unless I am upgrading the database from 11G to 12C, and then I need to capture all the plans and have a baseline for all of that. Usually, I mean, I can either capture using a manual capture using a SQL tuning set. I mean, from a SQL tuning set, or from a cursor cache, or AWR repository. You can also load plans from AWR. So once you do the capture, I mean, you can export and import to another database. I mean, that plans you can export and import. You can use OEM to export and import, but I will show you a different method to do that. So this is the SQL plan baselines. Just quickly, how the plan baseline works. So if you have enabled SQL plan baselines, optimizer use SQL plan baselines, it will once the execution plan is generated, it will check if the SQL plan baseline exists. If there is no baseline exists, it will execute the plan. If there is a baseline, then I mean, is this SQL in the plan baseline? If it is yes, then it will execute that plan. Whatever the plan is there in the SQL plan baseline, it will execute that plan. It will not execute the new plan. So if it is not in if that SQL plan, which is generated here, is not in the plan baseline, it will mark it as an unaccepted plan in the history and compare the cost with the accepted plans, and the lowest baseline plan it will execute. So you have some guarantee here that, I mean, it is looking at the previous history of the accepted plans and things like that, and then only it is executing the lowest cost. So that's how it is preventing suboptimal plans being executed in the database. So SQL plan baselines is a good feature if you want to avoid performance issues on a stable database. Plan evolution. I mean, you can manually do the plan evolution, or you can also enable the sys auto SPM evolve task. I mean, that is an auto advisor auto task is there, I mean, which will run nightly and look at all the plans and then accept. I mean, it will evaluate all the plans nightly, and if it finds a better plan, it will make that plan as an accepted plan and put it in so that Oracle can execute that plan in the future. And sometimes, I mean, things to know here. I mean, this is also from a live system. So here the DBA was creating a SQL plan baseline, and without, I mean, and he was wondering why Oracle is not picking the plan baseline which he created. It is still using an old plan baseline. So when we looked at it, I mean, the plan is, you look at there are like 5 plans here. So 2 of the plans are not accepted, and 1 is enabled. These 2 plans are accepted, but they are not enabled. 3 of them are not accepted, but 2 are enabled. So basically, I mean, the DBA doesn't have an accepted yes and enabled yes plan. So that's why it was not using any plan baseline. So you need to pay attention to these things. I mean, like you need to enable the plan. So for use by the optimizer. Yeah, the unused plans will be purged 53 weeks by default. I mean, if you want to change the retention, you need to use DBMS SPM and use the configure procedure to do that. Okay, this screen is to transfer the plans or the SQL profiles or SQL plans from using OEM. You can copy the plan baselines or the SQL profile from one database to another. You just provide the host credentials of a source and host destination database. So basically, you are connected to the source database. So you provide the source host as well as the destination host and destination database, and then you can copy the profile or the plan baseline to another database. This is one way of doing it, but my preferred way is using the script from Carlos. So you go into SQLT. I mean, everybody knows. So most of us, especially if you're at EBS DPA, you will be knowing SQLT or SQLT Explan. It is Metalink support note 3215187.1. So you download SQLT. I mean, by default, I mean you will run the SQLT executable. But under UTL directory, SQLT UTL directory, there is a script called coe_exfer_SQL_profile.SQL. So when you run that script and pass the SQL ID as a parameter, it will generate a separate SQL statements for each plan hash value it finds for that SQL ID. So you will have a profile create script for each plan hash value. So if you know which plan hash value is good, so you just pick that script, go to the other database, and then run the script. It creates a plan SQL profile in that database. So it is much easier to do that. I mean, the script is available under SQLT. So you can download SQLT and get this COE expert SQL profile.SQL. This is what I use normally to transfer a SQL profile from one database to another. And similarly, under SQLT UTL SPM directory, there is a script available to copy the SQL plan baseline also. I mean, so you create a SQL plan baseline, then export and you create a SQL plan baseline using the scripts here, and then you export and import the staging table. So you can do that as well. So you go to SQLT, and when you download that, I mean, you can get more information about that. But all tools are really cool. So that is the troubleshooting part. I mean, so we have seen, I mean, what are the tools available and where you can get. I mean, there are a lot of options to troubleshoot SQL. I mean, the Performance Hub is one good thing. Even if you don't have OEM, Performance Hub is something you should be using. SQL Developer gives you a lot of option to troubleshoot. So how to prevent performance issues? Just quickly, again. The performance, I mean, the gather statistics. I mean, optimizer statistics is the important part. I mean, you need to gather statistics periodically, and you also need to gather dictionary stats periodically. I mean, usually, I mean, I run dictionary stats at least once a month. The fixed object stats may not that frequent, but if you do upgrades or you do application upgrades or anything like that, and then it is good to run the fixed object stats. But run database and schema stats always. You can keep running the auto stats job, but sometimes, I mean, even if you have the auto stats gather statistics job running, sometimes you still need to capture the full stats, because it is collecting only stale statistics. So sometimes you need full stats periodically for you to get the best performance on certain tables. So if you have any tables like that, I mean, it is always good to gather statistics. And AWR baselines, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, if you have the habit of capturing AWR baselines, like every Monday 10 a.m. You capture a baseline, or every day at 10 a.m. you capture a baseline, so that you can compare that baseline when you have a problem down a few months later, because baselines will not be purged automatically. So you can compare with that baseline to see, I mean, how the database was performing a few months back when you have a performance problem. And as a DB, I mean, you still need to be reviewing the database health, the resource utilization, the top SQL. OraCheck is one good tool. I mean, you should be running periodically. Then other OEM health check and other things you should be doing periodically. Yeah, so we talked about this, collect system statistics, manually, yeah, all of this, we talked about it. Yeah, the periodic statistics gathered, I mean, use the automatic statistics, or the vendor might have a recommendation or a program. I mean, because the vendor knows the application better. For example, eBusiness Suite, I mean, eBusiness Suite, the Oracle provides you a script or a program to run. I mean, you are not supposed to run the automatic stats. I mean, you are supposed to run the gather schema stats program, or gather stats from F&D stats from Oracle EBS. So check with the vendor. I mean, if the vendor has a recommendation, I mean, you go with that recommendation. Otherwise, you just keep the automatic stats. And sometimes you have to manually collect the stats as well. If you are using 12C release 2, and there in DBMS stats, I mean, there is some a good feature like preference override parameter. This is good. I like this. I want to show this here because sometimes, I mean, our developers would have coded statistics collection after a load or something, and they might have hard coded like 10% or 15% in the stats collection program in their code itself. So if you want to override that, because in 11G R2 and 12C, auto sample size is much better than specifying any percentage like 10 or 15%. It might run faster and better. So if you wanna, if you have any coding where the developers have hard coded 10% or something like that, you can override that using the DBMS stats preference override parameter. Using that function, that procedure, in fact. So here, I mean, you can override that 10% or whatever that to auto sample size. So take a look at that. I mean, if you have any problems like that, I mean, where the developers have hard coded statistics gathering in the code, in the application code. And another feature in 12.2 database is the auto stats advisor. This is also a nice feature. I mean, it basically there's a job running every night, and it looks at your stats gathering practices and gives you an advice, or you can run the scripts manually also. I mean, so you can run DBMS stats report advisor task and script advisor task. I mean, it will tell you remediation. I mean, what are the remediations for fixing the stats collection problems in a 12.2 database. So if you're using 12.2 database, stats advisor is a good thing to be proactive. So basically, you have to create in the manual mode. I mean, if you're not using the automatic mode, in manual mode, if you want to do that, I mean, you can create a advisor task, then execute the advisor task, that report, then implement or script. You can script, and then you can generate the script and modify. I mean, that will be the preferred method instead of implementing whatever the advisor is advising. That is like a black box. I mean, instead of that, you generate a script, and then you edit the PLC script, and then you run the script to fix the gather stats problems. So these are some of the rules available where it is checking. I mean, if you have the auto stats job available, I mean, is it completing successfully? How much history is maintained? The concurrent preferences. So there are 23 rules available in 12.2 database. I believe the rules are more in 18C. I haven't checked that yet, but we can look at BitOrder stats advisor rules, and these are the rules it will check against the database, and then provide the recommendation, like the volatile data lock table should be locked. I mean, if you are loading temporary data and truncating the table every night, then it will suggest those tables and then recommend you to lock statistics on those tables. So it's a good script. What it generates, and you can implement the recommendations. And one other thing quickly, I mean, if you are upgrading to Oracle Database 12C, this is a little bit old information, but if you are upgrading to Oracle Database 12C to avoid performance problems, if you are going to 12.1, I mean, I know people are still going to 12.1 because if you are especially on eBusiness Suite or some other applications where 12.2 is not yet supported, then if you are going to 12.1 1, I mean, you probably have to apply some patches, and otherwise, I mean, you need to turn off the optimizer adaptive features, because and if you apply a patch, I mean, you get 2 parameters. I mean, Oracle deprecated this parameter and then introduced 2 parameters in 12.2: optimizer adaptive plans and optimizer adaptive statistics. So yeah, quickly here. So if you're upgrading to 12.2, you don't have to do anything because the default optimizer is good. The plans are enabled and the statistics are disabled. If you are on 12.1, you have 2 options. You either apply October 2007 or latest. I mean, always go with latest database bundle patch, and you do the fixed control, and then you set these 2 parameters. I mean, optimizer adaptive statistics to false and adaptive plans to true. So if you don't want to apply the bundle patches, and then you remove the adaptive features parameter and apply these 2 patches, 2265, 207, 2097, and 21171382, and then you set this. Anyway, I mean, this is if you're upgrading the databases to 12c anytime soon, you need to pay attention to that. And finally, I mean, this is the last slide. Again, the best way to troubleshoot or quickly resolve a performance problem is knowing our database environment better. I mean, if you are managing 100 databases, this is hard. But if you have a production database and again a business critical production database, you take a look at the databases, take a look at the database OEM performance screen periodically. Then you kind of understand how the colors, I mean, the load look on a database during normal business hours, during the batch window, during the evening times, during month end, during quarter end, or during year end. How the performance is going to be. I mean, if you have an idea, if you know your database better, I mean, how the database is going to behave, things like that, then it is easier to troubleshoot. Then it is easier to troubleshoot performance problems, because you know that whatever you see on the database is not normal. So you need to look into something else in the database rather than working or spending time with the user to understand more, because you might find by digging into the database, you might find where the problem is. So again, if you see something that is abnormal, I mean, again, at the bottom part, I mean, if nobody complains, I mean, you define the scope yourself. You cannot really dig and fix all the problems you find in the database. I mean, there'll always be some issues there. I mean, so you need to define what is the scope you're looking at. I mean, define baseline metrics and configuration thresholds, and then you frequently review that. So those are the things. Any questions? I don't see any question in the chat window there. So I guess either I confused everybody or it was crystal clear. Anyway, all right. I just want to quickly give you an introduction to the Oracle ACE program. I mean, the Oracle ACE program is a community service program. I mean, where it's not in the sense that for the Oracle community, the people who help the Oracle community, Oracle Corporation recognizes them with 3 levels. So the highest level is Oracle ACE Director. The other level is Oracle ACE. And if you're just starting there, I mean, it's Oracle ACE Associate is there. So if you are a blogger, or if you're actively participating in community forums or Oracle TechNet forums, and you like helping people, you like sharing your knowledge through blog and presentations, I mean, maybe you qualify for Oracle ACE program. You can nominate yourself, or you can contact one of the ACEs or ACE directors, or you can email the ACE program directly. So if you are into the community and helping the Oracle community, take a look at the Oracle ACE program, and maybe you get qualified to be an Oracle ACE. That is that, and this is my contact info. I'm actively participating in Twitter, Facebook, Google, blog. I mean, I also publish Aura Tidbit. I mean, it's a tidbit on Oracle database mainly, or on Oracle technology. That, I mean, you might know that. I mean, you may not know that. It's something. Mostly, I try to concentrate on new features, but it's not always new features. it's something interesting or something you may not know, or somebody may not know. So it's a tidbit. I mean, once a day on weekdays. I mean, that'll come out with a hashtag or a tidbit, and these are my handles, social media handles. And if you have any feedback or any questions, I mean, you can always reach me at biju.thomas@gmail.com or biju.thomas@onenect.com. Again, my Twitter handle and Facebook is there. This presentation or another version of this presentation can be downloaded. I mean, it's the same slides, but the title slide may be different, but can be downloaded using that that URL there. And that's pretty much it. I still don't see any questions. Thank you very much for your time. It's 10 minutes over, past the hour, but thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate you staying till the end of the presentation, end of the session. And I thank APAC, OUC, and especially its president, Francisco, for the opportunity. And I really appreciate what Francisco is doing for the Oracle community and in the APAC region. Thank you all, and see you in another session, maybe next year during the webinar tour. Thank you.